Okay, hello. I think we're back now. Sorry about the
Okay. Was it me?
disconnect. Oh, fuck this internet. Right, what were you saying?
I'm saying, was it you that wrote in the suggestion box about the crisp tasting, or was that someone else?
It was anonymous, so I can't actually confirm who put that in there. But it was a good suggestion
Oh,
nonetheless.
right.
So,
Oh,
yes, yes.
well, I want to do some amazing.
What was
I was
that?
definitely hungry after last night.
Oh, it wasn't Jay Moshi.
I'm
No,
saying
it
I was
wasn't.
definitely hungry after last night.
Jesus, fuck this
Oh,
connection. Right, okay. No, it wasn't Jay Moshi that put the crisp tasting suggestion in, but I think we will have to do that at some point. It was a good suggestion.
well, it was obviously hired by you, so people must have liked your crisp chat
I wasn't the one that started the
and
crisp.
meal deal chat. And
I wasn't the one that started the thing. Oh,
oh
Jay
god, see, this
Moshi.
is annoying. Oh, I'm
Uh,
getting confused. I thought all the food came from you. Right? Okay, sorry.
uh,
It's because I can't read it. I always find when you're reading it out, I get more confused with who's saying what. Sorry.
oh, okay. No problem. Now, welcome to the chat, Republic of Tryhards CX, who says, my morality comes from whatever I'm feeling at the moment. Guess there's no
That
better
wow, that
way
must be fun.
to do it, I suppose. Yeah. That's kind of along the lines of what people were saying last time. We hosted the same question last night, and most people said it was a kind of ingrained feeling, a kind of ingrained sense of what's right and wrong. It was my contention, or what I seem to understand, is that it comes from thought, it comes from thinking and reasoning over things. That seems to be, to me, the distinction between, say, animals, who we mostly seem to decide don't have morality, who act amorally, and human beings who act with moral consideration. To me, the main distinction is that human beings can think, they can reason beyond their programmed input, and with that reasoning, gives them the chance basically to consider moral issues. But also, yeah, whatever you
Do
feel
you
at the
think
moment,
that
that's a good answer as well. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, do you think you can think you're making the right decision and make one that's not moral? But I never know which term is it immoral or amoral? Immoral,
Well,
I think.
from what from what I understand, sorry, just to clarify, I think immoral is to say that it's something that is bad, something that is against a moral decision, but amoral would be to act without moral consideration, and could therefore could be moral or immoral. It just depends, but it's not there's no consideration of it whether it's a moral action or not if it's amoral.
Ah, right. Thank you.
Right?
That's
Yeah.
cleared that up a bit.
All right.
So what I'm kind of getting at is, those tough decisions where you could be really thinking about something, and you're really trying to get like the good outcome, but it's like a really tough decision. Like maybe I'm assuming like the kind of scenario would be like it could hurt, or either decision you choose is going to hurt someone. So how do you make the right decision?
Right, right. Yeah, I certainly think there are cases where it's difficult to discern the answer, and it seems like
Yeah.
often you just have to make a decision that's the least damaging. Yeah, rather than something you want to do, it's just that it's that you think it's the least damaging or the best result you can get. If those are like your only two options, if it's a black and white choice, then sometimes obviously in a binary option there is no good option really. Ultimately, and you just have to pick the
Yeah.
kind of lesser, less destructive option, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really reckon
That
that things
makes.
can be too black and white when it comes to morality necessarily, kind of, because there's so much to do with circumstances and like different people are involved, different different things going on, different effects that can happen. So, and then you're sort of weighing up like
Mm-hmm.
percent chance of things happening. If it gets that complicated as well, if it's not even obvious what will happen, you have to kind of
Yeah.
predict what the outcome is. So, there's definitely a lot of thought that has to go into like some of those
Yeah.
tougher decisions that you're mentioning.
Yeah, they're tough. Yeah.
And that to
Um.
me, that the fact that
Sorry.
there is such decisions that are that tough kind of backs up my idea that it's the thought that gives us the chance to behave morally. Like I get the feeling there is a moral
Yeah.
absolute. There's something that's the correct moral standard, and by thinking and reasoning, we can come as close as possible to that as that we can as human beings who are, you know, flawed in our thinking, and it takes us time to get there. But with good consideration, I think we can get there on most decisions.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, I think that definitely does back up your point about thinking, which I actually hadn't considered really before we started this chat yesterday. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Guys, what's your opinion on this? Jay Moshi and Republic of Tryhards. Well, I mean, Tryhards kind of gave an answer there as well, but do you want to expand on that at all? Do you have anything else to say on the matter? Anything else you've thought about it? And Jay Moshi, I can't really recall if you had given an answer to that question as well. I more or less remember the meal deals and favourite cheese questions, which I was fond of nonetheless. But if you guys have any input, we'll be more than happy to hear it, and would be blessed to get a bit of perspective from your side, sort of thing. So, I mean, last time we got so many people giving us different angles on this. We had some people who were religious, we had some people who weren't, and we had different people who, were looking at it from the subjective angle, looking at it from the objective angle. So there was a lot of really good input that was coming forward, and it seems people are very interested in this kind of question, as am I. So.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hmm.
Hmm. Do you think that? So I'm trying to think of. I remember studying this in high school, but I can't really fully remember. So I'll try and give you what I've got, and you might know a bit about it.
Okay.
It was. I think it was Hume,
Right.
right? Or was it? Oh, anyway, right.
So it was Hume or wasn't? Okay, right.
Sorry, but if it is, then hopefully that'll give you a bit of insight.
Okay.
And I think it was talking about say one person had to die to save the whole civilization.
Right.
Like, is that then the correct decision? It was kind of along like that sort of line. Like basically, is that one person like kind of worth the than the death of all people, or you know what I mean? I'm not explaining that very well.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, and that's kind of the utilitarian, which I think's the label
That's
for someone. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah, utilitarianism, I believe, is the idea that the greater is more important than the less, sort of thing. So whatever's best for the majority, is going to be the kind of correct decision.
It was Immanuel Kant, actually.
You sound like you're in a fucking submarine buried under the ground, by the way. So.
Sorry, it was Immanuel Kant, not Hume.
It was Immanuel Kant, a real pissant. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, by the way, Jay Moshi says that morality comes from us, or from the way we've evolved through history, and then he is LMF 8-0ing, possibly at your submarine adventures. I don't know.
Or my lack of knowledge on anything.
I'm not sure. Could be a combination, yeah. But he's having a good time. I'm glad to see it. So what do you think of that? So yeah, that was kind of what Michelle was saying last night. You were really thinking on the idea. Well, a lot of this morality stuff seems to have been developed through evolution, and I was sort of tending to agree with that in the sense that you can imagine the communities that practice things such as don't kill each other and respect other people and cooperate effectively, don't hurt and damage each other's property, all this sort of stuff. I can imagine them performing better just from an evolutionary standpoint than those communities that didn't really practice those moral behaviors. So, is it just a residue from that? Is it just purely evolutionary, or is there something else to it as well? Is it a combination of that and maybe the rational thought that goes alongside it?
Yeah, and I think that maybe the reason I came up with or came with was thinking evolutionary was I was kind of thinking of, well, consciousness is obviously very much to do with it, and well, I don't know if that's evolutionary, but you kind of maybe think that it might be. So, or at least it's like No, maybe not. I don't know, but maybe like our thoughts have sort of, unless it was just we just woke up with thoughts. I don't. Fuck knows. But if it kind of at all happened gradually, or even from like the first set of people that had consciousness, surely that would like sort of improve over time a little bit when you've kind of like worked your shit, and then out of that and thinking and rational thought comes, we need a structure that this group of people in our tribe can
Fuck me,
manage to
so
get
much
along together.
robot right now. So much fucking robot.
Oh,
Sorry, do continue, but that last bit was a bit robotic, kind of going a bit fucked. So just to take a small rewind.
okay. I think I was saying that so to live in a group, like in a tribe, I think people would have realized that they need some sort of structure to manage like a lot of crazy humans living together and working together.
Mm.
Um,
And,
and so I
and
think it would come out of that.
it's been the contention of some people that was the original point of religions, was to
Mm-hmm.
basically set that kind of structure, set that kind of adherence for people, so they know they have to behave in certain ways. It's written in the form of commandments, so it's very, bold, to the point, and there's no kind of misconceiving what they're saying, and that's almost like required for a better functioning of people amongst each other. And Optimus, is that you? Says Jay Moshi about your robot talk, by the way. And Owen's Clan is here with 5 Santa Claus. Welcome to the chat, Owen's Clan. Good to see you.
Santa Claus again, you like it?
Santa Claus
Bringing in
greeting.
winter for.
Yeah, and but so it's interesting, because um, it's kind of, you were asking the question to me. I don't know if it was actually on the stream, but at some point you were asking, or wanting to do a discussion on, is science a replacement for religion, in the sense that, well, if religion was what we've had historically as this kind of rule setting structure, this kind of thing that's given us the definitive ways to behave morally speaking, and
Yeah.
that hasn't been necessarily replaced, or science has in some sense replaced that. But your contention is that science doesn't deal with moral issues. Science is just the observation of the universe, sort of collection of data, forming of structures, forming of models that describe the universe, sort of thing. It's not. That's great. That's fantastic. But it's not really concerned with questions of human spirit, or spirituality, as you might say, or morality. It doesn't maybe necessarily look at those kind of questions. And it seems historically maybe what we had for that was religion. And with the world becoming more
Mm-hmm.
secular, has there been a lack of replacement for that? Was a question I remember you were sort of wanting to ask. And if everyone's happy with that, we could kind of go into discussing that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
your
I
contention
mean,
that it's
my
not. Is that right, or it's not a replacement?
yeah, I was going to say my thoughts are that it's I suppose maybe with the um science. Sorry, I can't think of the word before that, but with science coming um and getting more established as it has today, we see now, as we see today, people sort of laugh and sort of scoff at religion, which I understand that kind of idea because when you've got science and you can see how maybe some parts are ridiculous, especially literal translations of religion. And I think people have gone a bit too far with scoffing at it and think that people were just, again, this thought that people were idiots in the past, and like they just completely thought that's just a fucking joke and we don't need religion and science and nothing else matters, and they're kind of forgetting that there were some really important parts of religion that um are necessary, or at least the questions that they're asking or addressing are necessary. And I think that is like the kind of moral issues, how to behave. Unfortunately, science doesn't answer these questions. Maybe it'd be good if they did, but I think you can see in society that we don't have that. At least in Britain, it's quite clear that we are not teaching anything about morals outside of religion, really, and about how to behave, and so behaviour is not very good, really.
Yeah, I can understand that. I would say, considering our peer group, sort of people around sort of 20s, age of 20s, mid 20s sort of age, there's certainly to me a great
Mm-hmm.
sense of nihilism amongst them, and a great deal of sort of less than excellent behaviour. Let's put it that way. Also, going to say hello to So Prime, who says, "Hey guys, it's fantastic to see you again, So Prime. You're very
Hi.
welcome this evening. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you've got plenty to say on the topic. I'm sure you will, based on past conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing you
Yeah, it's good.
enlighten us on a bit of this question. We also have a comment from Republic of Tryhards, who was brewing there a little bit, sort of sitting and listening a little bit before they've constructed this comment. So I'm looking forward to this. Let's see. I'm not that philosophically versed on this topic. I think that our intellect and predispositions are largely out of our control, genes mostly. So morality varies wildly, and religion did a good job at dealing with this. What do you think of that, Michelle?
Perfectly written, I have to say. um,
Yeah, it's a great
I would
comment. Yeah.
agree. Like, yeah, I think morality does vary widely. If I've said that correctly, or roughly what that comment said. And I definitely agree. We clearly do not have a choice over how intelligent we are or the way we think.
Mm,
I certainly don't. Like, I've just thought this way the whole time. Again, like, views or interests, and it seems the same with intelligence. And I mean, some people just can't. You remember in school, there's some people that just couldn't grasp things, and then people that are
yeah.
just geniuses. And it's like, well, it's not like obviously working hard is something you can do and you can improve, but there's obviously like just complete differences in people. So I would agree, genetics is, yeah, it's a crazy one, and I think that's maybe why religion was good, because the people that maybe wouldn't come to think of these things themselves, if they're not like born philosophers, they maybe needed a kind of more of a structure to keep them from not like destroying themselves, other people, and the world.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think overall, Republic of Tryhard's great point on that. Um, I do think we've got to consider how we package some of these, lessons or ideas that we have for other people. I think it's a bit of a fallacy, this kind of pushing of equality and equality of intelligence and equality of opinion just simply isn't the case. And as you just mentioned, you can make the simple observation that when you're in school, some people can pick up the lesson straight away and others take much, much longer. And it's the same input they're getting put into them, it's the same lesson, no different at all, but some people just can get it quicker than others. Some people may just never get it
Yeah.
unless they're shown it a different way. And we know this. We know people learn things in different ways and to different levels of aptitude.
Yeah.
And I also really like the point that Republic says here that even just being aware that yourself, the intellect and predispositions, as you put it, are largely out of our control. That's a really excellent, humble way of looking at yourself, because I think
Yeah.
many people get carried away with if they know things or they've got knowledge, they want to own it and like make it theirs and kind of lord over other people who maybe don't have that, and kind of like enjoy being smarter than them. And do you know what I'm talking about? I think everyone knows someone who's like that at least, and we all have to be careful not to be like
Yeah.
that. And I think one thing that religion did seem to offer was there
Yeah.
was a humbling factor to it, which was that you're a human, you're sort of fallen from grace and faulty basically, and there's a perfect being that's above you, and that's set to kind of humble you, to make sure you're not God, you're not sort of perfect. I think it did a good job of that perhaps in a lot of cases, and without that, again, we see that
Yes, you
people can
don't
get a little
stop
bit
striving.
arrogant, their ego takes over, get carried away, and they don't behave in that form of excellence. And I think for you even just to recognize that a lot of the gifts you have been bestowed are not really entirely up to you. It's not really been your choice that you have an ability or a ability to comprehend or to think that others don't. It's largely by chance, really, that you have that. And I think that's just an excellent way of, without the God side of things, of humbling yourself into seeing that you know, it wasn't all on you. It's not all your achievement, if that makes sense. Are you there? Oh,
Or
hello.
oh, you
This
don't hear me?
connection is fucking bollocks, by the way. I'm gonna
Oh,
slip myself. This is fucked, right? Excuse me. Sorry, that was fairly foul language, but you're gonna have to get used to it when I'm just getting a bit pissy at this thing. Were you speaking there or not? I'm just
it's
sitting here
alright.
and it's just silent. So
Yeah, I started to.
okay.
Can you hear me now?
Apologies. Okay, I think I can hear you now. Let's try it anyway. And also, Republic says
Right.
exactly. So I think I got your point, and I liked your point as well. And Jay Mosh is laughing at me freaking out about the connection, as he should.
Yeah, I think it's definitely um something to remind yourself with. I think everyone probably falls into the trap, especially when, for example, you encounter idiots. Like it's easy to be like, "What the fuck?" Like, annoyed by them, which that's also fair enough as well because idiots are annoying. But yeah, it really is good to remind yourself that people don't think like you, and you didn't control being able to see all these things. Um, so yeah, it's definitely something we should be aware of and more
Hmm.
humble.
Can I ask a question to Republic just based on the back of your comment? You say you think that religion did a good job of dealing with this variety in people's moral understanding, can we call it, or moral comprehension, something along those lines, let's say. Do you think there has been a lack of replacement? Do you think that without what religion was doing, we're seeing a kind of a void, a kind of hole in kind of moral discussion and moral consideration now that wasn't there before? Because Michelle was asking me, do you think that science adequately replaces religion? And I love science. I think science is absolutely excellent and it's a fantastic method and just wonderful, wonderful thing, really. But I do also agree on the other side of that that there seems to be something missing in people, and majoritively I'm seeing a much more like nihilistic sort of tendency in people. This is just talking around my sort of age group, but even maybe in general, that without that kind of sense of there's a reason to be good, there's some incentive, there's clear goals as to why you should be good. Without that, for a lot of people, they can't see why they should be good. You know, without those kind of that rule set sort of thing. Um, what's your opinion on
or
that?
why they should or why they should even try or strive for better. I think that's
Mm,
why, as well, maybe not why people sit around doing nothing and watching TV, but it's certainly not motivating them enough to think that um, maybe I should be trying like harder to be the best that I can be,
right.
or at least improving it one way every day, like trying to at least set that into your routine is um, I should have enough time in each day to just improve one thing.
Right, but you made the point. What is the point in achieving moral excellence if there's not a reason, if there's not like a goal or a purpose towards doing that? Isn't that's the kind of question, isn't it? Why do we do this? Why do we try and improve ourselves?
Sorry, it kind of went robot there. Could you
Oh,
repeat?
fucking robot! I'm telling you, I'm about to fucking kill that robot. If he keeps coming in here, if that robot comes in here again, I'm gonna slap him. Well, it's okay. I just said some shite probably, so what? Maybe it was okay on the stream, hopefully. And
You said something
regardless,
about a goal or something.
I was just sort of making the point that without like there being an obvious incentive or reason for trying to achieve moral excellence and trying to improve ourselves, then what is the purpose for most people? How can they know that that's what they should be trying to do? When it does, indeed, in my perspective, it is what we should all be aiming to do is to try and always improve ourselves, and that should be a never-ending um, journey. It shouldn't be something that ever really ends. You're never going to know everything at any point in your life, and you should always be trying to like improve your position, improve your understanding, and improve just yourself, how you relay yourself to the world, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm going to read some of the comments now. So Prime says, "I'm listening for a bit about the context of the statement before I step in." I like that. It's a shrewd approach, taking in all the information and kind of see what's going on before you answer. Actually, it's the same tactic carried out by Republic, who kind of sat a little bit and saw what we had to say before sort of forming their comment. And I like that. It's good to get the context first and then See what you guys have to
Yeah.
say. But I know you're gonna have something to share with me, and I know you're gonna enlighten us in some way. So I'm looking forward to when you do decide to drop the hammer and bless us with your wisdom. Now,
Thank
Republic
you, Dee.
Republic says, yes, I was actually writing up a question for you guys about this. Oh, right, okay. So I got there first with the question, I think, back at you. So I'm going to get your answer and then maybe I'll answer it and we'll see what you said. Oh, and you
I was
fired the
also
question anyway, it seems. Do you think there's a way to have a moral structure for society that is as potent as religion was before the rising secularism, except there's no God to send you to heaven? That's a great question, Michelle. You're going to have to answer it since it's such an excellent question, and you're an excellent
that is a
answerer.
bloody good question.
Yeah,
You
great
need to
question.
start writing our questions for each night, please.
Yeah, Republic. What if you'd be pleased to do this? I'd like you to join our Discord. We haven't had much activity going there yet, but to be fair, we've been pretty lackluster on our consistency of being there. However, I did post something yesterday, so we're getting there. We're getting used to this now. So if you join in there, we always take suggestions, or we've been asking for suggestions for future topics and future questions.
Or
So
in the suggestion box on the stream. You can put
quite
it there.
right. Yeah, there's a suggestion box underneath the channel. If you scroll down, there's all those sort of box panels underneath there, and we did put a suggestion box for any ideas, anything you want to share there. So yeah, please do join if you like
Sorry,
this kind of conversation. What were you saying?
Just refresh me on the question again. I know it was
Uh,
excellent at Toffee's here.
All right, I'll read it again. The question was, do you think there's a way to have a moral structure for society that is as potent as religion was, and in brackets, before the rising secularism, except that there's no God there to send you to heaven?
Oh God. Right. I'll go with off the top of my head so that I'm not sitting in silence for the whole time. Actually, like my gut reaction is kind of like no. But that's just like me not being able to imagine it. It doesn't obviously mean that's not possible. Only because we've kind of come this far. You know, that way you can't go back, so you can't go back to before science and things like that. I'm kind of like, would there be something that's? Do you know what? No, maybe there would be actually. See if you motivated people with like sex, the way that they sell perfume on adverts, then
Yeah.
maybe. But then that's not moral. So how do you motivate people to be moral with sex?
Well, that actually begs the question: do the ends justify the means? Is what you're basically asking. Like, if you manipulate people into being good, is that good in the end then? Even though you had to manipulate them in the first place, that's what you're essentially asking, I think.
Yeah, it is. I like it doesn't seem good, but I think when we consider what you mentioned earlier, or what we discussed earlier with all you guys, about your disposition and your genetics, like if people are going to be the kind of people that need to be told what to do and they will never be able to think for themselves, and that is just the end of it, then you need to guide them the right way, I would assume.
So you would say that the ends do justify the means, and that it's appropriate to, in some sense, manipulate people or lead people a certain way if that's what's required. If they can't, if it appears to be the case they can't get there on their own, then we should take it in our own hands to kind of show them the way, show them a way, and kind of guide their thoughts a certain way, sort of thing. Is that what you're saying?
I actually think so, and I wouldn't have thought that before, but I actually think that's true. Just with what we've said, and the way that we can see society just now without having that seems worse to me than us. And to be fair, it's not like people aren't getting manipulated by their sort of desires and darker things, this all sex selling stuff like this. It's not as if that's not happening anyway. So let's at least do it for good, and that's going to be better for society, even though these people are being tricked. But are they really concerned about being tricked? It doesn't seem so, or at least they're not able to think it through enough to be concerned about it, I suppose. I don't know.
What do you think of that answer, Republic? Should we manipulate people then if we're going to achieve this moral structure, as you described it, for society? Is it quite the case that we need to manipulate people and incentivize people essentially into behaving well, behaving good. And is there a problem with that at all? Do the ends justify the means? That's a question. Flip it
And
back on you.
also,
Um,
what do you think, David? In answer to Republic's question and
okay.
the general.
And also the follow up, the do the ends justify the
Yeah.
means in that case.
Yeah.
So is there a way to have a moral structure that's as potent as religion was? It seems very much like I agree with you on that gut feeling that once you open the lid and see the world and your eyes open, if we've done that collectively and in a sense we're sort of moving away from religion, then I think
Yeah.
I don't see how you can go back to that. For example, in myself, there's not much I can do to become I can't choose to be religious. I can't choose just to accept something that I don't believe in. And neither can anyone. No one can be expected just to simply choose and just force themselves to like leave it if they don't,
Yeah.
to me, I have to be intellectually honest as well as being, open minded and these things. You have to strike a balance between the two, don't you? To really get
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
So, as potent, I'm not quite sure. I get the gut feeling, perhaps not. But I would like to see us extract some of the things that religion was offering, such as like community values and getting together, the humbleness, the togetherness, even the singing, and all these sort of things. It would be
Oh
fantastic
yeah.
if we could extract those parts of religion, I think, without necessarily having to have this subscription to the supernatural. If one day we can achieve that, I
Yes.
think we can really still get a lot of quality out of those parts of what religion offered.
I think so because sorry if someone's commented. I'll just quickly say this. But you know how Jordan Peterson. I don't know if anyone has heard of him or watches him or anything. He's a clinical psychologist um, who also did lecture. What's the word for that? A professor of a university for psychology.
One of those
And
guys. Those
what? Sorry.
professors. One of those things. Those
One
professors.
of those things.
A rare
Yeah.
being. Yeah.
And he's done some YouTube videos trying to break down the stories in the Bible, and I just found them so interesting because um, he sort of shone the light on what these stories are kind of meant to tell us, and there's all these themes about like the story about the dragon kind of in your house, and it gets bigger like the more that you avoid it, and then eventually it'll tear down your whole house because you've not looked at it. Like these sort of, what's the word? Um, I'm not sure, but the stories in the Bible when he breaks them down into these kind of themes that humans have always encountered, and problems that humans have always had to work through, like jealousy of your brother, like Cain and Abel, and all this kind of stuff. Like, I just never was aware of that before, and I don't think a lot of people are. Like, it's not really taught in that sense, or it wasn't to me. And I think stories are incredible. Obviously, we've been telling them for a long time, and I always liked moral stories when I was younger. I always liked to like, oh, what's the point of this? And it's like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And he really showed like that the Bible's kind of, at least in his eyes, like sort of meant to be taken more that way, and it's meant to be these themes and kind of teaching us about life. Sorry, I'm not wording that well, but I found that really interesting. I don't know if any of you guys have heard his stuff or specifically the stuff on the Bible, but it's really interesting.
But I think it's also understandable people can come up against a bit of a wall if someone's going to say that it's literally true and literally the case. I think that's one approach looking at it, and I think there is definitely value you can draw from that. But I think if obviously people, you can understand people get into this position of just kind of hating religion, thinking religion's not really worth our time in the sense that if they go up against someone who's saying that is all true and you should just take it all literally, then they're going to miss out on the value of if there is some value to be drawn from it in a metaphorical sense or like in an allegorical sense. They're going to
Yeah.
miss out on that because they're just faced with, oh, it's not true though, so and stop claiming it's true and get kind of annoyed, which is also understandable. So there's also this kind of I can see both sides to this as well.
Oh, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I really wouldn't have much to speak about. I don't think with someone who was saying it was literal. I don't mean that in a nasty way, but I don't know where we would get with that.
Mm.
Whereas, yeah, I can obviously get way more connected to if that's not the case. If we're talking about it as a metaphor, then well, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and there's some really good
Yep.
lessons in there.
Yep.
And he says it. He speaks about like Pinocchio as well, and like all these Disney, and you're like, oh, that's why. Oh, like it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Okay, excellent. Let's catch from the comments. I see a really juicy, large comment from So Prime, which I'm so glad to see. So let's have a look at what some of these thoughts are. So Prime says that some basic morality comes from just basic survival instincts through not God, or I mean, not through God, that was meant to say. I'm not religious at all, but most of my decisions towards aspects of life, like how I treat people, is 100% survival. I'm a very vengeful person, so if I get treated a specific way, I will return the favour without doubt. If someone attacks me, I'm coming back fighting. If someone treats me with respect, I'm coming back with respect. However, thought, if you stand back and look at a macro view of it, it does seem like people that are extremely religious are extremely moral, at least. And then goes on to say that religion is 100 or almost 100% based on fear, similar to communism. Not trying to be offensive, but it's people reacting in a way that will mean their afterlife is a happy turnaround. Communism was the wrong word, I guess. I don't know what word to really explain it. That's So Prime's response there.
What word was the wrong word?
Communism. But even if we just omit the word communism, what he was saying was religion is 100% based on fear, and it's people reacting in a way that will mean their afterlife is a happy turnaround. What? Do you have any comments?
No, let's you go for this one.
Go for that one. I can certainly understand when you say acting from fear, because I think many people act from fear of many different things, and a lot of, from what I can understand, a lot of the behaviour we see manifested from people certainly does come from fear, or the aspect of fear. So I can definitely understand your perspective from that point, So Prime. That makes sense to me.
A lot of structures are based on fear, aren't they? Like,
yeah, fear is the great motivator, as they say, isn't it? And it certainly is one of these things that can cause behaviours and convince people to act in certain ways. So I do understand
that's why people
that
show
position.
up for work and pay their taxes, isn't it?
What do you think of sort of the original question of has there been a sufficient replacement then for what how we discuss morality and how morality is perceived in society, or kind of like Republic's question of is there a way to have a moral structure for society that's as potent but doesn't have this God character that's part of it? So what do you think of that? Is there some replacement then that we can offer instead, or do you think we are sufficiently equipped to go forward and behave morally just in the back of science? Also, on your points of sort of, I like your point on sort of you react to how you're treated. I think that is quite a fair way of behaving, in the sense that I've heard the saying you should walk softly and carry a big stick. Don't know if everyone's heard that, but I like that. It's really funny, which basically means you should treat people well. You should be kind to people and nice. But if someone fucks with you, destroy them. And and that's kind of also written in the Nordic version, the Viking version of the Ten Commandments. They had their own sort of commandments within the Viking religions, and that was actually written there as well. Basically, if someone crosses you or your family, you should absolutely annihilate them. And I like that.
Yeah, so, it's good. And so do you think that's what Jon Paul Sigmarsson led his life like?
Absolutely. I think he was someone being strong. You should be strong and fit and able to defend yourself and defend the weak and the people you love and the people who are vulnerable. You should be strong enough to protect them. And we've actually had this discussion last night, and it's my contention that it's our duty, our moral duty, to be in good enough shape to protect ourselves and the people we love. And you made the point to back that up, to say, how would you forgive yourself if, say, for example, someone came and stole your child right in front of you or attacked them, and you were just too tired to chase them, or you were too weak to pull them back, or something, or to fend them off, or something like that? How would you ever forgive yourself when you know you could have prepared yourself better for that event? Maybe that's a strong point. Maybe you don't agree with that, but that seems to be where we got to the conclusion of that you should be keeping yourself in at least fit enough, at least in some sort of shape, in case that happens. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying, like, obviously we're not speaking about like something you couldn't defend against. You know, if they come in with a tank and like run you down or something like. But if it's like you reasonably could have defended your child if you weren't such a fat fuck, then like obviously that's a shite situation to be in when your child's gone and you're just fat.
Yeah.
Like it's not good, and it's not good enough as a parent, especially. You need to be able to protect your children. So yeah, I think it's a moral duty as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. I also see that Republic says here that, yeah, I agree with you, guys, he says there. God, as an infinite being, is the ultimate incentive for any human to be good. So it
Mm.
can work for most of society. I can't think of an incentive that is as powerful as God that will work for, say, 70% of society.
Yeah.
So you seem to kind of agree with us. Just thinking, and I really like this. This is an excellent point because I've not even considered this fully, really, and it's good to kind of get this out in the open and just discuss these ideas. It's really nice. You seem to be on the same sort of page as us that perhaps there isn't something that can be that powerful, that sort of definite in its sense that you must behave this way, that we can convey to people convincingly.
Yeah. I know. It's really hard to imagine what would be as powerful as that.
And it seems to me, and maybe it seems to you also, that we're in desperate need of something that can be convincing people to behave morally good, because we cannot simply rely on them doing so under their own thoughts, thinking on this, because as you and I and all of us here understand, most people are not going to think about these kind of questions, are not designed to sit and think and to consider
Yeah.
how they should behave. They are programmed a certain way, and they are also told what is good and bad, and that is that's how they basically come to their conclusions on what they should do. It's not based on them sitting and reasoning and thinking on it. So I'm very much in the camp, having considered and having had this conversation, that we do need
Yeah.
something that can incentivize people, and it's absolutely fine for us to do so, like to use something like that in order to make sure people behave good. To me,
Yeah.
the truth is a wonderful and beautiful thing, but also goodness is perhaps even higher. And if it takes people not really understanding it truly, and it takes having to tell them something that isn't necessarily true, but it makes them behave good, then there's less suffering and there's less evil. And can we really say
Yeah.
that we're
Exactly.
going to do
Because I
anything
think
other than try to reduce suffering and create more good in the world? Can we really want to do anything other than that?
yeah. No, I think you're right. Like I think it's because we know the alternative, so it makes it more of a clear decision because we know that without it, then what guides their behavior is um, big businesses trying to make money, and that's actually the way they live their lives is in pursuit of what they're being told to buy and be scared of, and buy and be scared of, and buy and be scared of. Um, so if that's the alternative, I think tricking them in some sense to be good. I mean, why? That's much better.
Right,
Um,
right. And sorry, just to kind of add to that, because it's something that came to mind whilst you were saying that, I'd much rather have someone be a good person, but truly behaving well and good, but be gullible to certain points and not completely understand the truth, than someone who understands the truth and is a piece of shit and just an arsehole and just doesn't care, doesn't behave morally well. I'd much prefer the former to exist.
yeah, me too. And it's because as well, it's not as if it's just this imaginary like, oh, people behave a bit shit, and like that's just their life they're fucking up. It's not. It's their kids and their families and their friends. Like it all has an effect on everything else, and we can see that. Like it's quite obvious that society has shifted like drastically within the last 50 years or something, or
Mm-hmm.
however many years you want to call it. But um, these effects are like huge, and they're having a bad impact on our younger generations as they keep coming, I think. Um, so it's almost essential that we actually
Do something
try
about
and
it.
make a better structure for
Yeah,
people to be good.
absolutely, absolutely, and not just be satisfied with, well, now we know maybe God's not a thing. Now we know it was used in that way, but so what is to be left with? Just this knowledge, and to have nothing else to just replace it, nothing else to make us feel well inside. That just leaves a void, doesn't it? It leaves a void and a missing gap, and it needs to be replaced. There needs to be something we do for people, and not just leave them to get on with themselves without any of this. I think at all. Especially when you consider that it's not, as you said, it's not like education is doing anything towards teaching people how to be moral. It's not as though you go to school to learn
Yeah.
how to be a good person, how to improve yourself, and how to improve um, to achieve moral excellence. Not like any of that's to be taught. So clearly, we are in desperate need of these kind of discussions,
That's what
and
Plato
that's why I
tried, though,
welcome it.
wasn't it? He built a school for which taught people how to be good and everything. That lasted for like 300
I
years
think
or
there was the original
something.
idea of university, essentially, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, is it
Was
right?
to
Was it?
learn these kind of things and to discuss things, utilizing the Socratic method of questioning,
Yeah.
and that was
So
the
that was a good
idea,
attempt.
which sounds great, but it's a kind of long
It
gone
does.
fantasy. Now I'm just going to read some of the comments again.
Yeah.
So Prime says, yeah, it does exist nowadays. Fear, yeah, it certainly is. Fear is like one of the main drivers of people's behaviors, and to me, one of the main ways they manifest themselves and relay themselves out into the world is based on fear, one way or
Hmm.
the other. Fear of how they appear, fear of their future, fear of looking right and looking and fitting in,
Yeah.
and all these sort of things. I've quite often said to you, and I quite often do believe it, two of the main factors that drive people to behave in such funny ways are the fear of appearing to not know the answer and the fear of not fitting in,
Yeah.
are just two main motivators and drivers within the kind of anxious and self-conscious beings that we are, that cause us to act out in such strange and peculiar ways.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, why else would people spend triple the money for like a designer piece of clothing?
Right,
Um,
right. There's certainly no
when you could
logical
get.
reason. Yeah, it can be nothing other than that they're worried, so they don't look good, they don't fit in. It's not the right thing. It's not the right top, isn't it?
Exactly, and where is that the highest? Probably in high schools where people are like the biggest sort of fear, or where they're really developing that fear, and like I think naturally at that age you're more fearful anyway, so
Yep.
it makes
Um,
sense that they would be ones wearing that those clothes like more. So
yep. Definitely. I see also So Prime says there is nothing to replace religion. Religion is almost a type of slavery, but it's accepted by the population. No, no, in capitals. Other type of slavery is accepted by people. What do you think of that?
well, I would say that working is a type of slavery that's accepted by people.
I would concur.
If
Yeah.
I'm getting that right.
That's very much the case. I mean, it's our understanding that that work has been closely tied with people's sense of morality now. So just the fact you work and you're productive, that makes you morally
Yeah.
good in most people's perspective. So it seems.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
It's quite creepy. Uh, Also, So Prime says,
Yeah.
I like your guys' accents. You put an R in the word asshole. Arsehole it becomes. That's quite right. We do say arsehole rather than asshole. Um,
Asshole.
asshole.
Arsehole.
Arsehole. Ars. I suppose you want the R as well. Arsehole.
It's a lot more
Arsehole.
threatening though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
fucking
arsehole.
arsehole than asshole. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Thank you. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you enjoy it. Republic says, regarding the void in young people nowadays, I think this comes from many factors, a few being bleak economic prospects, worsening of the climate and environment, and the aimlessness of this materialistic life, in brackets, godlessness. There's so many to
Yeah.
list that it should be a stream in and of itself. And it will be, my friend. In all the nights to
Yeah.
come, we certainly will delve into, I'm sure, many of these questions. And with your help, will surely be enlightened on much of the answers.
Let's get into that tomorrow then. Do you
Yeah, that
think?
sounds good. I mean, I think I'm certainly of that same opinion that there's less for people to kind of base themselves in reality and less for them to fight for now. And many young people have a sense of purposelessness, and this nihilism is a growing epidemic, as far as I can tell, just from my
Yeah.
perspective. And it's just no wonder, as I mean, you have listed off some of the reasons, but there is possibly an endless list or a huge list of all these possible reasons as to why people are just
Yeah.
so much more down, so much more sort of bleak than before. Um,
Yeah, because even if you consider like how long you actually are forced to be in school, which is pretty much pointless, um, or at least miserable. Like no one really enjoys school. Okay, some people do, but like let's say majority of the people don't want to go to school, um, in this country at least.
mm,
So you've got to at least have 16 years of your life forced out of you to do something you fucking hate most of your day, like 6, 7 hours a day, with no really clear like, oh, and once I'm out of school, I get this, like that I'm happy about. I've got this thing
right,
that's like a dream or something. Like no one even has that. And then there's uni now that's getting pushed even further, so people are coming out at like 22,
right,
um,
which would be like middle
just out of
aged in
their
the past almost, and we're coming out just out of university, like in middle aged sort of territory, or at least in the past, you know.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's not as if even that lands you a job or anything that you could like, that you actually want.
Mm.
So no wonder these young people are depressed and feeling like there's no purpose. Because again, if you the old tribal times that I think of so fondly, which maybe isn't true, but in the tribe you would have had a job way like a job that people rely on you for, and that had real goals like survival for the tribe way before fucking 22.
Right,
Um,
right. So your sense of
so
purpose is realized much sooner, is what you're saying, in maybe in the
yeah, I
past,
think
whereas
we
now it takes a
trust the
long time
kids
before
to
you become responsible. And it does
yeah,
appear that young people today have much less responsibility than they had previously. Their
yeah,
infanthood, their sort of ability to behave in a kind of infantile manner, has been extended much longer. Is that what you were saying?
yeah,
I,
definitely.
I would agree if that's what you were saying. It seems that people had to grow up a lot sooner in the past. You even look at like I've looked at pictures of like my grandparents, and when they're like 16, they're wearing the full suit, the dress, the things. They're like grown up, grown up clothes. Now I'm not
Yeah,
saying don't have the childhood. I'm just noting the point that it does seem we extend this period of like behaving like young, behaving very childish for much longer. And even so you look at the average person in university or college, they're still like a child. They're still just like a teenager. They haven't really evolved anything at all beyond that, in my opinion.
yeah, because we've not given them any responsibility, and I suppose that's why um Jordan Peterson's so popular because he's trying to get people to take on responsibility, and every time he asks someone or anytime someone speaks to him, they straight away apparently he says, "Go to well, it's the responsibility." As soon as I started taking on more responsibility, oh my god, it's changed my life. I mean,
Yes.
Christ,
Yeah.
what?
Um,
Why don't we want them to have responsibility? Sure, that's like a good. Well, clearly it's a good thing.
it
Um,
certainly is a good thing, and certainly we need to balance rights with responsibilities if we want to get anywhere. I'm just going to also read some of the chat again here. Welcome to the chat, Carl Nathan, who is new to the chat. It's good to see you, my friend. We're having a kind of open discussion that was on morality. We've kind of segued off into education, topics on how young people are facing the world and what it's like to be growing up in the world now compared to the past, and just kind of all sorts of these topics. So, if you want to just sit back and listen or you have anything to say, please do join in. Also, welcome to Dude, who's here again. Hello, Dude. Welcome to the chat, my friend.
Hello,
It's good
how
to
you
see you back
doing?
again. And a nice little smiley face, which is good to see. I hope you are doing well.
Yeah,
So Prime's got a bit of a comment here. It says, "Yeah, you're right. Working is slavery. Lol." To add to Republic, though, he is right. If no views for the afterlife exist, you only have 190 years of life to have, 65 of which you're a slave. So actually, you have 25 years of life to look forward to, and everything you work for, you lose when you get put in the ground anyway. Right, and that naturally and understandably leads to this nihilistic thought. You just think, I'm only here to simply slave away and work all my enjoyable years, and then at the end I can just sit and wait to go in the grave. I can understand why people could then end up at a very purposelessness and a desperate kind of helpless hopelessness that people do seem to arrive at, and if that's all that you want to consider. So we need to find something beyond that. We must find purpose and we must find responsibility beyond that, if we want to still have that drive and still have that motivation to be the best we can be. Sorry, Michelle, you're going to say something?
Yeah. Sorry. I was actually just thinking. I've never. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I just went a bit. I just thought that was a really good point. I've actually never considered the lack of afterlife and how that then affects your perception of your life, and especially when you're working your whole life. I've never thought of that. That's actually really interesting and seems very true. Yeah, good point.
It
That's all I
absolutely is
watched
going
through
to
this.
shape how you
Interesting, yeah.
perceive how you should act now. It
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
must have an
Very
effect, must have a shaping on how people feel. Certainly. And if these things aren't discussed, it just makes it all the more perplexing. And as we know, people, human beings in a perplexed or confused state tend to do weird things. And guess what we're seeing in the world? People acting in lots of weird and strange ways and unhappy ways. And I think that is just a consequence
Yeah.
of this kind of shift, or quite potentially as a consequence of this shift, where we haven't had something to replace that purpose that was given to us, and we need to find new purpose now if we're going to continue on and be excellent beings that we can. We have the potential to be excellent, with the potential to reason, to think, and be wonderful people, but without incentive, most people will fall short of that. And we must do something about that, it seems. If we want to bring people across to that side, we need to think about how we package that, and we need to think about what it is we can package and give to people to convince them to consider morals or consider being good, consider the improvement of themselves, which is ultimately
David,
what
are
we all need to
you
do.
playing music or something?
Yeah, there's just very light music. Yes.
Oh, right, okay.
Is it getting a bit loud? Yeah, actually, that's a question. Yes or
Yeah,
no
okay.
on the music, guys? It just I actually didn't notice because I had it playing from earlier on. So I don't know
I
if you can
couldn't
even
tell
hear
now,
it.
but
Yeah.
it's like weird. It's kind of going with your voice, and it's kind of a bit weird.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, maybe I can just turn it down
So,
slightly. But I want to ask that question anyway. Yes or no on just like a background quiet music for the streams, or do you guys just like it? Just the dulcet tones of our voice.
I'll vote no from over here, but I don't know how it sounds on the stream.
Okay, well, we'll get a vote. Hopefully, people, you can let us know what you think on that. Anyway, I'll read some of the comments again here. Um, Dude says that you don't need too much. You don't need much to be happy. First of all, it's all in the way of your thinking. An excellent point indeed. A
Yeah.
very straight to the point idea, but obviously your perspective is going to shape how you see everything, and it's going to shape how
Yeah.
your attitude towards everything is going to be shaped by that perspective. So it's a great, just simply put
Beautiful.
point. I do appreciate that. So Prime says it comes that comes from people now just not living day to day, but having the intelligence to see what their actions are going to achieve. Life doesn't even start till you're 65. Yeah, I know. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's very true, isn't it? And yes, that is a unique ability of human beings to be able to perceive a future. That is not something that is bestowed upon animals, that ability. That is something that's unique to us. And
Yeah.
it comes with, it's a double edged sword that I think comes with good prospects, the ability to plan, the ability to prepare and to save and have, stockpile things and yeah, all preparation essentially is the good side of it, and the bad side, of course, being anxiety, worries, the
Great
knowledge of
game,
death,
really.
the knowledge of fear. All these things are the kind of the bad side of that sword, I would say. So, I think it comes with kind of both.
Yeah.
Both. So I'm not. We're not be able to speak much. I'm just going to fire through because there's a few different comments here. So,
Right. Okay.
right. So Republic says I'm in university doing a STEM major, and in our career prospects workshops, we get graduates that mention how they've been rejected from hundreds of firms relevant to our field, and that we shouldn't feel bad about that because they have been finally accepted. Oh Christ! Yeah, it's getting so much worse, and the value of a degree certainly seems to be diminishing,
Oh yeah.
as far as I can tell. It's the opposite of motivating and just further demotivates me. Yeah. yeah, I can understand why. I'm sorry to hear you're in that kind of position. It should be something that you've got a clear and obvious goal at the end where you say, I can achieve this if I put my work into this and I will get to that end point. And as you quite clearly said, it is demotivating to find out, well, I might not even get something at the end of this. It's a hit or miss as to whether or not I can actually land a job. I might have to kind of exist on a very low budget for quite some time before I can get to that stage. It's certainly not motivating, that is for sure.
And the thing is, as
Um,
well, it's even. Sorry, I'll just quickly say this, but it's even worse because then if you've done that whole degree, and then you're not getting a job, so you go and take like a shittier job, that shittier job's going to feel even more painful because you've got a fucking degree. You spent half your life and you spent all your debt to get this, and then you're in McDonald's again. It's like, oh, it's even more painful, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it would have
No
been. It's
wonder.
already
Yeah.
painful enough to be McDonald's, but like, God, that's a way to make it 10 times more suicidal.
Absolutely, and increase anxiety and stress. Obviously, now you're not, yeah, as you said, you're not only in McDonald's starting from zero, you're in McDonald's starting from minus thousands, minus whatever, and no wonder
Yeah.
that's going to cause a lot of anxiety. Dude, by the way, says, I don't agree with that, Prime. There are many ways to not work a slavish job. You could work part time, just live somewhere where you can get by with that. You don't need much materialistic things. Okay, so that's the other perspective coming from Dude.
Yeah, I agree with that on many levels, and also I don't as well. I think I do. Yeah, I see your point definitely because I'm very big on minimalistic um living. I live in a very big house that my father made, and I find it very, very too big, like unnecessary. And it to me, it just seems like way more upkeep than anyone can cope with in one family. For like cleaning and like paying for things if something goes wrong, stuff like this. So I'm definitely more of a keep things small and stuff like that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's hard, especially imagine you were born in London or something. Then like, how the fuck are you meant to afford things? There are ways around it, but I do agree with your point. People can definitely sort their shit out a bit and buy food, pay the rent, or save up for a mortgage. Probably even on like not a great job. If they were just like careful with their money and didn't go out buying alcohol, fags, and clothes. So yeah, no, I do definitely see your point. But also it is difficult, especially with people even trying to get degrees and still not being able to. There's just so much competition these days. So I can definitely see both sides of that. But that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you
absolutely.
think, David?
Yeah, I think that's good. I'm sorry, I can't speak too much. I'm gonna go through the comments before we get in that situation of just never catching up with them as well.
Okay.
I want to make a quick point as well that you say I don't agree, and that's fine as well. By the way, I think just so everyone knows in here, it's okay that we don't always agree on everything. It's actually going to be really healthy that we don't always see it the exact same way. So hopefully
Yeah.
Prime hasn't taken that personally, but we'll never take it personally if like we don't agree on something. So don't be scared or worried to put forward your point. We like in the perspective as long as we're just all earnestly trying to think about it and get across our ideas, then that's good sort of thing. I just wanted to say
Good
that in general, just
point.
so
Yeah.
just to point that out. That's fine in this stream. Music is good, says Republic. All right, that's one vote for music, and that is the majority currently. So until that's opposed, the music will stay.
Okay.
Dude says you can always eat melons on the side of the road and play guitar and have a good time. It won't be so expensive. Well, I don't know that melon tax though.
I think
Absolutely. I mean,
on.
it sounds like to me that Dude would be quite the fan of Diogenes, the cynic. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever heard of him, Dude, but Diogenes was a resident in ancient Greece who lived in a wine barrel. He lived inside this wooden wine barrel, and basically they called him Diogenes the dog because he would piss and do things on the street and just didn't really give a fuck, basically. And he's one of the original cynists, where cynicism sort of comes from. So if you've not looked him up or heard of that, then I think you'll probably quite like reading into that a little bit. Diogenes, Diogenes, if you're interested. So Prime says, purpose will come from science. If life lasted 500 years, for example, instead of 100, people will be motivated to create something for them that will last 500 years that seems worth it. But working for 65 and living for 25, fuck that. It's a lot of effort for dog shit. I love it. I love it. Yeah, so you think there's just not enough time for people to really see a point in doing much more, though? Is that the issue? That, they're just so much limited time. But I definitely agree that slaving away for 60 years to then only live when you're so frail and fragile you can't even enjoy the last 10 or 20 years that you have,
Yeah,
it is,
and
as you
pain
put it,
hobbling about it.
dog shit. So I couldn't really say much better myself. Pretty much, says Republic. So Republic's in concurrence. And So Prime says, I like this guy, he speaks my language. I like this Republic guy, he speaks my language. I'm so impressed as well that so many people do come here with such well articulated thoughts and good points. We started this venture just not really sure of what the response would be to the channel and if there'd be really anyone at all that would be out there who wants this. I mean, and it's just fantastic to see like so many well thought responses, well worded points, good conversation coming from everyone that comes here. It's only a small group, but that's all we really need at this point. It's just fantastic to see all this. That's my opinion anyway. To see so many people who
Please
are
don't all
thinking.
take my job because you're better at speaking than me.
Well, Republic did say earlier, and I think I maybe neglected to say it out loud, but did say I sound better on paper than in voice, or something along those lines. And I was going to say
Okay.
probably the opposite is true for me, and in reality, neither is the case. I'm not smart in either way, but I probably sound smarter when speaking than when writing things down.
Yeah, I'm better at writing as well, so I feel you on
okay.
that. And thanks for making me feel a bit better from that, even though you said that ages ago, but I'm just going to take that as making me feel a bit better.
We all have strengths and weaknesses, I guess, in that sense. But yeah,
This will help, and it is helping, so but yeah, thank you all guys for coming on to this. It's been really good, and I'm the same. I didn't expect such good conversations from such an early point anyway, so it's been great.
it's great. It's just surprising, but pleasantly surprising to see many people are getting some value from this. And if you know anyone else that you think would get value from these kind of conversations, would enjoy this, just share this out to let people know this is a thing that we do. We do this every night at 8 p.m. for our time, and we do 9 p.m. on Saturdays. And we're trying to be consistent. We're trying to always bring interesting questions and ideas. As I said, we've got the Discord, where you can sort of share these ideas. We've got, if you follow us, you can get email notifications letting you know when we've got a stream starting. So yeah, let's make this something. Let's make this a place where we can have these kind of conversations. If you guys are enjoying it, getting the value from it, we certainly are. I'm certainly enjoying the conversation. Always do when we get this much input. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that. So what we'll do is we'll quickly run through the last of these comments now. I think we'll wrap things up for this evening because we've been streaming just a little bit over the hour. We usually shoot for around 1 hour per night. Since it's been a good conversation, we can extend out a little bit as we've done here. But we'll fire through these last little bits and we'll sort of wrap this up. And again, I really encourage everyone to put suggestions in the Discord. Join in and then put some suggestions because we're always open to other interesting questions and ideas, and you guys seem to have them. So, but let's fire through these last little bits. So, So Prime says, I agree with part of that, but now that I've been exposed. Oh, we have the follow from Republic. Thank you very much for following, my friend. I hope we will see you again. I agree with part of that. This is in response to Dude's suggestion of eating watermelons and playing guitar by the side of the road. So Prime says, I do agree, but I have been exposed to luxuries like McDonald's and electronics. Good point. I could not be happy playing guitar and eating fruit on the road. Oh no, it's fine. Many people will not agree with me. Okay, and So Prime is also fine with the non-agreements. I'm glad to hear it, and everyone should be open to us not always agreeing. So good stuff, guys. It's good stuff. So yeah, McDonald's and electronics has been the point put against the watermelon and guitar. That's the two sides of the coin that you've got. You have to choose one or the other. And Dude says, "Not wow, interesting. Never heard of him. Oh, great. Hopefully you can look up Diogenes, and I'm sure you'll have a good laugh at some of the stories and some of the ideas. But he's a very interesting character, very interesting indeed. And I'm sure you can maybe come back in our stream and tell me what you think of some of the stories about Diogenes. He's very funny." Oh, and Republic says the Diogenes and Alexander the Great interaction is a nice one to look up. Yeah, absolutely. That's a funny example of one of them. So Republic certainly knows a little bit about Diogenes, and yeah, some of the antics I'm sure you recall. Looks like an interesting guy. Yeah, definitely interesting. Definitely along your kind of thoughts with see the watermelon and guitar crowd. He'd be part of that. So I think you'll enjoy it for sure. I hope you do. Soul Prime says, actually, from this perspective, typing with a word limit does make this difficult often. It's hard to get what I want to say with a 500 character limit or whatever. Yeah, what we're hoping to do, I didn't know there was a limit either, but apparently it seems there's a 500 character limit to your. Actually, I did know that because sometimes like Soul Prime will write it and they'll have to write like a little second sentence or a second paragraph because it like cuts off clearly. Right. But what we're trying to implement at some point, and again, with your suggestions, so please do put suggestions in the box underneath the stream. We're going to try and implement you guys being able to come on to maybe this Google Hangouts or Discord or something and join in with a live conversation if you're willing to do so. If you're not too scared and you're willing to kind of do something outside your comfort zone, get out there and try it out, you can come on the Hangouts and do a live chat. I'd be thrilled to do that at some point. I think it'd be really good fun. So
what a big manipulator you are.
What do you mean a big manipulator? What have I done? Oh, the fear. Yeah, but I said if you're not scared though.
Yeah, that's totally manipulating.
Is it? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a terrible manipulator. I'll put your hands up. I'm manipulating you all. I'm currently exactly. It's the end justified means. We're gonna get a good conversation from it. So please, if you are willing to do that, you think you might be up for it, let's do it. Let's have a conversation. Let's work out some structure where maybe you can come on for like half the stream or a little section of the stream and do a little live chat. I think that would be good.
Unless you're chicken.
Unless you're chicken, yeah, and you're just so scared, you sad little chicken, yeah. And that's absolutely not reverse psychology, so don't think it is. That did a word limit. Adios, amigos. Adios, So Prime. Thanks very much again for seeing. It's good to see you so consistently. You always bring very interesting points. Thank you very much, my friend. Dude says cheers. Thank you very much, Dude. In fact, just thank you everyone, because tonight's been particularly good in terms of everyone's points and comments have been very well thought out and very well put. I've enjoyed being blessed with some of the wisdom that you guys have brought for us tonight. Republic says...
I do feel blessed also with the wisdom. That's a good statement point sentence.
And Republic says, thanks for the good time, guys. You're more than welcome. Thanks for coming along. You made it very interesting. And Soul Prime says, scared of what? People in another country. You should be scared of the Scottish, because we're a fucking hard bunch. And Michelle's particularly scary, and she'll batter you if you try and mess with us, so you should be scared. But at the same time, don't be scared to come on and have a chat at some point. I'm sure we can arrange that. And I think that's everything. Apart from that, I'm going to do like the last wrap-up bit. We have, guys, again, Discord, Instagram. There's Instagram. Michelle's doing some stuff, cool stuff over on Instagram. So go check that out. Follow, do all the stuff. You know the stuff, all the stuff you can do all that, and we'll see everyone, or as many people as possible, tomorrow night at 9 p.m. GMT.
8 p.m. Oh.
9 p.m. GMT.
Right. Oh, I'm a dick.
You're a dick, and I'm quick. There you go. I said it really slow, but I'm actually quick. Anyway, yeah, thanks again, guys. Really wonderful night. Hopefully see you again soon. And for now, take care.
Bye.
Bye.